Before the sun climbed over the skyline, Victoria was already awake. The air in the one-room shelter was thick with the scent of dust and kerosene. Beside her, Kemi slept curled on a thin mat, her face peaceful and childlike. Victoria lingered for a moment, studying her little sister, the only family she had left. Then she tied her scarf, rolled her sleeves, and began another day of work. She lifted the cotton cloth covering her wheelbarrow. The tomatoes glistened like small red jewels, each one hand-picked from a farmer's cart. To Victoria, they were more than produce. They were her livelihood, her hope, her anchor in a world that had shown little mercy. 3 years had passed since their mother died of fever, leaving Victoria to raise Kemi alone. Their father had been gone long before then, swallowed by the city's indifference. At 15, Victoria had traded schoolbooks for the streets, learning the rhythm of the market from a kind woman who'd taken her in for a season. She learned how to call out to passers-by, how to smile even when her feet ached, and how to survive on little but determination. Now, every morning before dawn, she pushed her barrow from the alley into the main road, humming softly to keep her courage steady. The city came alive slowly. Motorbikes roared, buses honked, and voices mingled in 1,000 small hustles. By the time the sun rose, Victoria had already found her place near the fishmonger's stand. "Sweet tomatoes. Fresh and ripe," she called with practiced energy. The regulars smiled and waved, some buying out of loyalty, others because her warmth made them forget their troubles for a moment. By mid-morning the crowd thickened. Victoria wiped sweat from her brow, her eyes bright and sharp as she counted coins. She had learned that honesty was better than cleverness in this trade. A fair measure brought back a customer faster than a trick ever could. As she handed change to an elderly woman, she felt a gaze on her. Across the street, a man in a dark suit watched quietly, his eyes following her movements with curiosity. Victoria didn't know it yet, but this silent observer would soon change everything. The market was Victoria's school. Its noise and chaos were her teachers, its people her textbooks. She learned that kindness could sell as much as skill and that reputation was worth more than gold. The fishmonger beside her taught her when to joke and when to bargain. The cassava woman showed her how to spot dishonest buyers. Every day brought a new lesson, carved in sweat and survival. Kemi often joined her on weekends. The little girl carried a smaller tray and called out in a soft but clear voice, "Tomatoes. Sweet like Mama's stew." Her innocence charmed customers, and Victoria would smile, proud and a little sad that childhood had to share space with struggle. But Kemi never complained. She said the market was fun, like school but louder. Rainy days were the hardest. The streets flooded, and Victoria's feet sank in the mud, but she stayed. "If I don't sell today," she'd whisper, "we don't eat tomorrow." When others packed up, she stood firm, wrapping her tomatoes in cloth and waiting for late buyers. People noticed. Slowly, her resilience became her reputation. One afternoon a dispute erupted. A man accused her of cheating him out of change. The crowd gathered, whispering. Victoria's heart raced, but she held her ground. Calmly, she recounted every coin and handed him his full balance. The man's face softened. He muttered an apology and left. The crowd dispersed, murmuring their approval. That was the day the man in the suit stepped closer. He had watched it all, the grace, the patience, the quiet strength. He was tall, well-dressed, his voice calm and deep. "You handled that with dignity," he said. Victoria gave a cautious smile. "It's cheaper to stay calm than to start a fight," she replied. He chuckled softly. "True. I'm Olumide Balogun," he introduced. "And you are?" "Victoria," she said, balancing a crate. "Well, Victoria," he said thoughtfully, "you have a way with people. That's rare in this city." He walked away after that, leaving only his name behind, but something about his gaze lingered in her thoughts long after the crowd had gone.
Olumide became a familiar face. Some mornings, he'd appear from nowhere, sometimes buying oranges, other times standing silently at a distance, observing. He never interrupted her work, never pried, yet Victoria sensed his quiet curiosity. Weeks passed before he spoke again. "You seem to love your work," he said one morning as she arranged her display. Victoria laughed lightly. "Love? I wouldn't call it that, sir. But it feeds my sister and keeps a roof over our heads. That's enough." He studied her face, the determination behind her humor. "You don't dream of something else?" "Dreams," she said, her smile faltering slightly. "Dreams don't pay rent, sir. Work does." Olumide nodded slowly.
True.
"But dreams guide the work. Without them, we go in circles." Victoria thought of that long after he left. That night, she told Kemi about the stranger with the kind eyes and the questions that stirred something unfamiliar: hope. The next morning, Olumide returned, handing her a small card. "If you ever decide to grow this business," he said, "come find me. You've got what most people don't: honesty and resilience." Victoria took the card carefully, her hands trembling. The fine print bore his name and company address. She tucked it into her apron pocket, feeling its weight like a secret promise. That evening, she placed the card on their small table beside Kemi's schoolbooks. The lamplight flickered, and for the first time in years, Victoria allowed herself to imagine a future beyond hawking. Maybe a stall of her own, a better school for Kemi, maybe even rest. She whispered to herself, maybe dreams can pay, after all, if you work hard enough.
When Victoria finally visited Olumide's office, she almost turned back twice. The building was tall, glassy, and intimidating. Her dress was plain, her sandals worn. But she took a deep breath and stepped inside. Olumide received her warmly. "I'm glad you came," he said. "I've been watching you for months. Your consistency, your patience. I believe you can grow beyond the streets." He offered her a small loan to start her own stall, one with a roof, shelves, and a small storage room. "No interest," he added. "Just pay it back when you can. I want you to succeed, not struggle." Victoria hesitated. "Why me?" "Because," Olumide said simply, "you've already proven you can turn little into enough. I just want to see what you can do with more." She agreed, and within weeks, her new stall stood proudly at the center of the market, painted green, neatly arranged, with Victoria's fresh produce on a wooden board above. Kemi danced around it, clapping her hands. "Our shop, Vicky," she squealed. Customers loved the new space. Victoria sold faster, stored better, and saved more. Her stall became a beacon of honesty and quality. Other hawkers watched in admiration. Olumide visited often, guiding her gently. "Don't just sell, record everything," he advised. "Know your profit, your loss, your pattern. A businesswoman doesn't guess, she knows." Victoria listened, learning how to balance books and build trust. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was building. And yet, in the quiet hours after closing, she often sat outside, watching the streetlights flicker. She wondered if life could really stay this good, or if fate, as always, had another storm waiting. Success drew attention, not all of it kind. Competitors whispered that she was being helped by a rich man. Some customers doubted her fairness. When rains flooded the roads and crops failed, her stall nearly collapsed under debt. But Victoria refused to break. She woke earlier, traveled to nearby farms to buy directly, and formed relationships with farmers who trusted her word. She built loyalty not through wealth but through honesty. When local touts demanded weekly security fees, she refused. Instead, she united neighboring stall owners and wrote a petition to the market authorities. Olumide advised caution but admired her courage. "Leadership," he said, "isn't loud, it's steady." Victoria began to train her two assistants, young women who, like her, had known hunger and humiliation. She taught them not just trade but self-respect. "We sell food," she said, "but what we really sell is trust." Each night, after the day's struggle, she walked home tired but fulfilled. Kemi's grades improved, and her laughter filled their little home again. Victoria's success had come at a cost: her time, her comfort, her tears, but it had also given her something priceless: dignity. Victoria's stall had become a small enterprise, but she didn't forget where she came from. She began mentoring street hawkers every weekend, teaching them about cleanliness, customer service, and courage. Her words were simple, her tone humble. "Never cheat a buyer," she told them. "If your goods are good, they'll come back. If your words are true, they'll bring others." Olumide sponsored her training sessions quietly, never taking credit. The small program grew. Soon the local council took notice, and Victoria was invited to speak at a business event. She felt out of place at first, standing among educated entrepreneurs, but when she spoke, the hall fell silent. "I was just a tomato hawker," she began. "All I had were my hands, my voice, and my promise to keep my sister fed. That promise turned into a business." Applause filled the room. Back home, Kemi was thriving in school, working on science projects and talking about university. Victoria watched her with pride that words couldn't capture. She had turned survival into stability, and stability into service. 5 years after that first meeting, Victoria stood beneath a bright banner. "Victoria Ease Produce. Quality and care." Cameras flashed, music played, and customers cheered as she cut the ribbon to her new warehouse. Olumide stood beside her, smiling. "You've done well," he said quietly. "You've built more than a business. You've built people." Reporters asked about her journey. Victoria's voice was steady as she said, "I started with nothing but tomatoes and determination. I just refused to give up." Later that evening, as the crowd dispersed, a little girl approached her shyly, holding a tray of tomatoes. "Auntie, can you teach me?" Victoria smiled warmly, recognizing herself in the child. She placed a crate of fresh tomatoes in the girl's arms. "Yes," she said. "But promise me you'll be honest, no matter what life gives you." That night, she and Kemi sat by their window, the glow of the city washing over them. Victoria whispered, "We made it, Kemi. From hawkers to harvesters." Kemi smiled. "And we'll help others too." Victoria nodded, her heart full. Resilience may start small, but integrity and generosity make it bloom. Never despise humble beginnings. They often grow into the most beautiful harvests. Victoria's journey reminds us that resilience begins in small steps, in faith, in honesty, in the courage to try again. From hawkers to harvesters, her story blooms with integrity, compassion, and hope. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Let's celebrate every dreamer who starts small but dares to grow big. Your engagement helps more stories like Victoria's reach hearts across the world.